Good evening, I'm Matterall. Tonight on Talking in Stations, huge fight in FWST-8. Imperium kills an anchoring Keepstar but loses 900 billion in the process, mostly dreadnoughts. Meanwhile, PAPI drops a second Keepstar right after the fight ends. Major fights expected tomorrow, Tuesday, around 1700 UTC. That will be when the Keepstar that was dropped, the second one, anchors and onlines. In this fight, Norause does a hero move to save one of his wounded titans. One of his pilots was in trouble and he jumped in and saved him, and we'll talk about that as well. Also, the night before, there was a second major cap brawl in SVM TAC 3K. I think Imperium came out with the win there. We'll find out those stories and more today on Talking in Stations, the EVE Online report. Let's get started. How's it going, Maddoxar?
It's going great. We're also joined with Gagarin.
Hello.
And Vily today.
Hello.
Welcome, Vily. Let's start with the... we're going to start with not the headline, but we'll back up and take these in chronological order in case there's some connection to be made. So let's start with SVM TAC 3K. That was a fight in Delve last night. This was a capital brawl. What happened there?
So last night, Brave pinged that they were going to do an op around 2300, I believe. And in response, Imperium pinged that they were going to do an op around 2300. So we responded by saying we were going to do an op at 2300. So Imperium formed a 2245 and set up a camp on the SVM gate, and their numbers were nothing incredible. So we figured, okay, we'll go take that fight. We jumped into them with 800 or 900 subs against their 500 or 600, I think. They had some Hodreds and some Apostles and such to amplify their numbers a little bit, and some carriers not too far off the gate. We were winning the subcap pretty well, but the carriers were hurting, so we jumped some carriers through the gate regularly. This is all in an unreinforced node, mind you. So the enemy pulled back all of their carrier fighters, and we jumped in some dreads to help clear the Apostles, and then, for the most part, cleaned up the fight on the gate and did our best to extract. Meanwhile, there was a Sino Jammer onlining, or a Sino Jammer cycled. So both sides were well aware that that would give the Imperium the opportunity to jump in super capitals uncontested. However, the server conditions started to become a factor as the enemy ended up with some Naglfars with unkillable emergency hull energizers, which were able to kind of one-shot most of our recons. And don't get me wrong, we were in advantage as well a little bit to this, as we were able to have basically permanent assault damage controls on many of our ships, is my understanding. So they got all their supers in. We didn't have the opportunity or ability to get ours in. So we did our best to extract through the gate. I think we took 10 or 15 billion losses, trying to extract mostly from dreads who couldn't uncycle their siege. And then, we kind of just left. We won the battlefield. I believe it was 75-30 or at the end, and we were just pretty happy with our win.
65-34. Okay, I thought the Imperium won this fight because you guys extracted, but what was the objective here? It seemed like it started over nothing, like some kind of a mining op.
Pretty much. I think their intel said we were going to go for an iHub, and we didn't bring any Entosis ships, but we would have gladly Entosis the iHub if we, got to kill them all and had a couple hours spare, but nobody really did. So for the most part, we're there to just take a fight and start to begin to, how would I say this, apply our presence to Delph was kind of the goal more than anything. Mm-hmm. They've been camping that gate quite a bit, so we wanted to start changing the tempo, I guess.
Right. You're fast, slow, or slow, fast. Yeah, so it looks like 320 ships were lost by the Imperium. with 272 ships lost by you guys, but there was a cost differential, so you ended up winning the ISK efficiency, it looks like, for this. But if it was a power struggle, they were outnumbered and they had you guys retreat. So that was a bit of a moral victory for them, I assume. Yeah, they had
Absolutely. I mean, they had super caps under a jammer. So obviously, our choices become pretty limited at that point, and we chose to extract, which, allows them to hold the field, they hold the loot, and obviously they can say we made you retreat or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, they had jammers. That's always a big difference, right? Because that means you can't escalate as far as you want to. Yeah, so they had 945 and you had 1,300. They have been more and more outnumbered, it looks like. But this one looks like it was not 2-1 or anything. It looks like it was a little closer. Okay, so that was last night. That was a big fight. It went on for a little while. We didn't get any coverage on it. It seemed to not escalate to the point where we were going to jump on and cover it, but it was definitely going down. And it was a surprise fight, so those kinds of fights are the ones that could really spin out of control. But it didn't. It kind of slowed down and ended. Let's have a look here at what happened today. This is in a different system. Why don't you take us through what happened today and what the results were?
So this morning, at 1200 Eve time, roughly, we attempted to drop a Keepstar and NPC Delve in FWST. Goons reacted pretty quickly and pretty promptly and formed up and got there first and got to put it to about 40-50% structure before we really got in system and got any measure of control of the system. And from then on, they began to bombard it with long-range dreads, suicide long-range dreads, basically, from a variety of angles. And we utilized a combination of carrier and super carrier defenses to mow them down, I guess you could say. So they continued to suicide dreads in to the tune of 200-ish dreads. And eventually they were successful in killing the Keepstar, at which point they tried a small dread bomb on a Brave Ragnarok, which failed. And then they tried a dread bomb on a Fraternity avatar that was disconnected and was just barely saved. At which point, for the most part, they kind of gave up their attack, having lost somewhere in the range of 270-ish dreads, I believe. To the tune of 900 bill or so, plus, a multitude of subcapital fleets. And, then we just extracted for the most part. And, oh yeah, we dropped a new Keepstar right after. I almost forgot that part.
Almost forgot, or were you like...
No, I actually almost forgot that part, because that part was like directly after I left, so...
Well, that was the coup de grace, it seemed like, because, again, we were talking about momentum, and it seemed like you put down the Keepstar, bold move, right? Now you're in a position to, if that Keepstar is to anchor, in a position to really jump on most to delve from there. And it looks like you got to it late. Why were you guys late?
We had made the call to not... how do I put this? We thought we were being a little more sneaky than we were, probably. We made the call to not form until they formed, which in hindsight was not a good call, but it was the call we made, so hindsight is 20/20. And obviously it cost us probably another 20 or 30 dread kills at least.
So what time zone was this in?
It started in 1200 and the fight finished around 1700.
So would that be the Chinese or more Europe time zone? European?
That's definitely Chinese prime.
Okay. So seems like it's the Golden Week, National Day there in China this week, the Mid-Autumn Festival. So they probably have a little bit advantage this week, being on holiday.
Really? I hadn't heard that.
How the heck do you...
Yeah, we're well tracking. Anytime you can, get a much larger contribution from players, it always helps, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. Well, being in the middle of the week or the beginning of the week, it's like on a Monday, right?
Yeah. No, it's definitely an advantage when everybody's off home for a couple days, and it gives them the opportunity to show up to timers they might not otherwise be able to make.
Nice little detail there, Mannix. Okay, let's look at those jump ranges because, well, actually, let's talk about the battle. Then we'll look at the advantage that you might get. It's not anchored. It's not online yet, so we'll talk about that too. So the battle is raging as you explained. It seemed to be going as an observer. We actually covered it. You can see that on our YouTube channel. We have live coverage. It's me early in the morning, so it's, you know, imagine that I have hair curlers in and I'm talking slow without coffee kind of thing. So lower expectations, but we're looking at this fight and they're dripping in. Well, there's a ton of sub-capital fleets, but as far as capitals, they're dripping in these dreadnoughts that are shooting the Keepstar and continuing to damage it as they reach the damage cap. So it's paused, it can't get to invulnerability, and it's being damaged. And eventually they manage to take it out. That's a good victory. It cost them quite a bit, but it seemed like they could do that all day long. You have any comment about that, Vily?
I mean, I would assume they should be able to do it for at least a few more hours. You know, for an alliance the size of Imperium not to have significantly more dreads than what they lost today would be pretty bad. They only lost 200 and I don't know. Somebody can pull up the battle report, tell me what the actual number
battle
is.
report's up. We can look at it. I don't know if it breaks it down per ship type. I'll check at the bottom.
If you do the related, it will on.
But like, you know, for the Imperium, I would expect them to have no less than maybe even up to 1,000 dreads between various pilot-owned dreads and cash dreads. So, you know, if that's how they want to suicide them, we're more than okay with that.
Well, I was thinking there was two things. One is, are they doing kind of like a structural waterboarding technique where they drag on time and make it painful for your guys that have to hang out all day just to plant one structure?
Well, they're doing that for their guys too, right? So, you know, anytime I hear that that style of argument, it's not necessarily the most accurate.
But it's a few, I see here, summary timeline. But it's a few, you know, it's a few dreads for them. It's thousands of guys for you.
But it wasn't a few dreads for them. It was all of their guys just sitting at midpoints, right? Or their subcaps getting killed on the field.
Yeah,
they had between 1,000 to 1,500 people in system doing things for most of the fight. So,
yeah, let's look at some of these high numbers now. 263. That's more than an entire fleet. 255 is the max. 254 maybe. So 263 dreads destroyed. And this is a surprisingly high number. 2 heavy assault cruisers hacks, 266 destroyed. That seemed pretty high. Stealth bombers, of course, are a lot cheaper. They're frigate size. They're RT2, but they're frigate size. 364 of those. Those are big numbers. Although I have seen big dread brawls. When was the last huge dread, I don't know, casualty fight?
Well, the last big dread whelp, or like the situation where both sides lost a ton of dreads, would probably been the dread brawls in X7 and Pureblind between the Imperium and Horde, where both sides were losing in the hundreds of dreads. And then Imperium was losing a bunch of dreads to Snuff as well in Lowsec. So, you know, those are kind of the last two big dread battles, I guess, off the top of my head.
Yeah, but those aren't.
If we're not considering, you know, G Magic as a big dread brawl, because that was only like 100.
That was only 100, and that's the context I wanted to put the dreads in. I remember back in like 2011 when NC Dot was a fighting IT alliance, and there was 200 dreads died, and I was like, is that number? Can that possibly be correct? It was a gargantuan fight. So there have been many big fights where dreads have been casualties, over 200. So what's the big deal out of losing 200 dreads or 263 dreads this time?
Well, the thing is, we're now into scarcity mode, right? So 263 dreads is no longer just 263 easily replaceable dread holes. Dreads are no longer, you know, the machine gun ammunition of capital ships they used to be. You know, the Imperium can say they have some massive 1,000 dread cash stockpile, but you know, most people know that's not true, and you know,
they don't, because they say that,
right? So I mean, some of their less, I don't know how you would say it, less informed posters will argue those points. But like, dreads are a scarce resource now. The amount of minerals it takes to build a dread, is not inconsequential. And when you start losing them on the scale of hundreds, we're now into the zone where these are not, easily replaceable losses for any side. Everybody's operating out of dread caches for the most part, dread markets, and long lost dread hangers. So anytime you start losing large numbers of dreads, you're talking about capability losses. Do you have a dread cache? Yes or no, right? And so losing 270 dreads means there's 270 dreads less ready to drop on us next time we engage in a major Titan fight.
Yeah, right.
And with the mineral distribution changes, it's going to have to rely on imports to build new ones.
Well, it's important to understand, since the previous scarcity stage, output has not, or the mineral basket, let's say, like the amount of minerals mined in Eve has not equaled the demand. So people haven't been building as many capitals as have been required for literally 7 or 8 months now. So most groups have been in a situation where, any cap losses are not being replaced at the same level they're being lost. So, this is just a further acceleration of those losses in that situation, basically.
Yeah. Honest question here. I asked this earlier, and I think it came across as trolly or one-sided when I was asking somebody, but I want to make sure it's an honest question. Is it now different to lose a bunch of dreads as opposed to losing a Keepstar? Because you guys did lose an expensive Keepstar.
Well, the Keepstar value is very different from the Dreadnought value. First off, obviously, 700 or 800 billion dreads is not equal to one Keepstar for anybody. But, there's a significant lead time on Keepstar production. And, obviously you don't want to lose a Keepstar every day. But if, the choice is lose a Keepstar and trade 800 billion dreads, we'll take that trade every day for the next week. And we've got the Keepstars to do it. So, obviously, my guess is the Imperium will change up their playbook tomorrow, and they'll try something different, and we'll see how it goes. But certainly, it's not an equation where a Keepstar is worth that many dreads. The fact that it was deploying in Delve certainly increases that value a little bit for them, but does it increase at 600 bill? That's pretty debatable.
Well, this is what I meant. Eve Drew Nero here says Keepstars take mostly PI, and ships take minerals, and the minerals are the ones that are now being stratified to become rarer. Is there an actual money difference in the future, or does it not weigh in because there's so many stockpiles of ships already built or minerals already harvested?
Mineral and ship stockpiles are pretty minimal, but for PI, PI is being produced just as much as it was before, and there's actually less pressure on the PI market than there has been historically, because people are building less structures because CCP is putting in more and more things to make things like structure spam and structure oversaturation not a thing, right? Because they've reduced the ability of Athenors to produce mineable rocks. They've now introduced the quantum cores. All these things are reducing the demand on PI for structures. So the value of a Keepstar has and will continue to go down a little bit. And obviously the value of minerals will continue to go up because minerals are more and more rare.
Yeah. Well, and that makes sense because as you decommission structures, because you don't want to put a core in it, for instance, because that's the latest change, and then you put that on the market to get some of your money back, that actually drops the market for other people building them with PI, planetary interactive materials. And so those can actually go to Keepstar builds if they want to. It seems like it would depress the market as far as price.
Correct. It depresses the market. So the more supply, if demand is equal, then, supply, will, or I'm not describing this supply and demand curve, but basically it makes the PI materials cheaper.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's why I thought it might be interesting to see, like, if it's a good time to be losing ships as opposed to losing structures. It's a moot point. You don't want to lose either, but it's kind of an interesting balance there. Is the trade as good as it used to be? All right, let's move on to show the what you won today, or actually what you may win, because this is what I want to talk about next. What's going on tomorrow at 1700?
So we have a Keepstar anchoring in FWST, a little bit off the battlefield from this morning, where we hope to get it online and take another fight, possibly. We've every member of the PAPI coalition has CT8 as far as I'm tracking, and the Imperium has sent out at least one pre-ping that they will be attending the fight as well. So we're definitely in an interesting situation, to say the least.
I've intercepted a ping from NC Dot, and oh my god, Vince is 100% committed to this next fight.
Well, that's not surprising. You know, we're aiming to get that 1,000 Titans tomorrow, so we'll see if we get it.
So you're going all in.
Well, we'll do whatever is tactically the best thing to do to defend the Keepstar, let's say.
Okay, so let's see what's at stake. If that Keepstar actually onlines tomorrow, if it successfully onlines, here's the jump range that it'll have for super capitals. Or it'll probably come up 3 times because the clicking is slow. That's a significant range.
Basically all of Delve.
Yeah. When I looked at it, I thought, "Oh, that's a very strategic spot."
Well, I mean, we're definitely looking forward to, if we're going to take the Super Cap fight, to take it on a friendly structure versus an enemy one. So for us, I think it's safe to say that we're definitely thrilled about that possibility.
Yeah, the system we're talking about is right here in green. You can see it there in green. And this is super capital. Let's actually look at capital range, which is different. And that's even wider. As you can see, it actually gets up here. And what is the bridging range? Is that the super capital range, or is that the...
Bridging range is super capital range, yep.
Okay, so the prior one. That is, as you can see, here's the difference between capital and super capital. This system for you is going to be, it's going to be pretty...
I believe the saying is make or break.
Yeah. Is this, do you think, a turning point, win or lose, or do you think it's
well,
another...
It can be a turning point. There's no doubt about that one. Either side could take some pretty insane levels of losses tomorrow, and it could absolutely be a turning point. But it could also be a nothing burger. The Imperium could dodge the battle, and they could look for a different field of battle and find it somewhere else. And I think we're at the point in PAPI where we've committed to the Keepstar drop, and even if we include the the kills from today, meaning that we would still even be 2-1 kind of thing. I think we're pretty hard committed to the fight. So for us, it's not a win or lose kind of battle. It's a must win. So
yeah, okay, you gotta treat it that way. All right, so that was that was a 5-hour fight today in FWST, and the Keepstar, the first Keepstar, was destroyed. Goonswarm Federation Corporations, Fraternity Battle Management. Let's see, Killboard SI is not. Why am I reading this? A second Keepstar was dropped in its place successfully, and that's the one that's up for grabs tomorrow at 1700. So we'll try to bring you live coverage of that fight. It's going to be a huge fight if both groups decide it's worth it. At least one group has. We'll have to see what Imperium does. They've already pinged once. Looks like something might happen. All right. I think that's like all the major news we have. Tell us about that Norause hero save, though. That was pretty cool. What happened there?
So there was a Titan that had disconnected from one of the Titan balls we had dropped in. And so he was at 1 million kilometers from the rest of the fleet, and Goons took a shot and tried to dread bomb him with approximately 50 dreads. We caught it early. And got some facts and some dreads down there to try and kill them. And Norause, trying to save his guy because it was a Fraternity Titan, jumped in his Erebus right next to him and popped in Armor Phenom to give him probably the extra 30 seconds to a minute for him to survive and let fax reps catch on him.
That's amazing. So Phenom, for those that don't know, are phenomenon generators. Those are Titan's ability to control the environment, and they can enhance it. It's essentially Titan boosting. So he was able to give bonuses to the ships.
It's kind of like the ultimate armor links.
Right. Yeah, armor links. So it boosted him up to give him a little more headspace so he didn't get destroyed, and then he was able to be saved. That's an amazing move, isn't it?
Yeah, it was really on the ball thinking. The Titan was in structure, quite literally, and in armor when he was saved. So by no means was it, a guaranteed or easy save. And, certainly jumping your own Titan into that kind of a situation is it's a risky thing to do. And, props to him for doing it, I guess.
Well, and I can imagine if that first Titan had blown up, he would have been next.
Most certainly.
Yeah. That's an amazing save. Really need to get to the bottom of that story. That's really cool. Really cool jump in and save. Awesome. Well, we...
so what happens if the Keepstar dies tomorrow? If there's anybody that can come in and kill a Keepstar, it's initiative and their FCs. They're really good about coming up with outside the box thinking on some of these doctrines and ways to kill things. So what happens when the Keepstar dies tomorrow, or if it dies tomorrow again?
It depends on the situation. We can definitely, we'll play it by ear. Maybe we drop another one. Maybe we don't. We'll see.
Well, the technique that Initiative used to use, we should say, has been nerfed, right? He used to use jumpy ravens. Well, that's what we used to call them in NC.
Well, yeah, jumpy raven.
Well, they were three-eyed ravens, I think is what they were called.
Bush ravens, yeah.
Yeah. So the technique was to have destroyers jump the group around the grid, so nothing could catch it. They would launch missiles. So they would launch missiles and then jump, and the damage would be off and away, and they could maneuver away from anybody who was trying to catch them. And the only way to defeat that was to essentially predict where they were going and try to intercept them before they could get away and tackle a few of them. But that was very hard to do. But since CCP basically said you can only move a certain amount of your fleet, not the whole fleet, that really broke up that concept pretty badly.
Yeah. And Genton suicided a bunch of Tau Wars to destroy a structure one time as well. So there's always
one of those fleets last week, and I know that a couple of Horde Corps used Corp fleets of that doctrine earlier in the war.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, and it was the Keepstar fight, the first of the two that had server issues. In addition to the big Raven blob that got bombed, two Horde Corps, Waffles and Cap-F, formed a Boosh Ravens fleet that survived the bombing and then got doomsdayed.
Yeah. So what about the servers, Vily? How did they hold up today and yesterday?
Yesterday they were terrible. It was an unreinforced node, and we definitely felt it. Today they were pretty good. For 4,000 people in local, slugging it out, fighters, drones, you name it, every missiles. In my opinion, they did fine, or as good as could be expected. So,
yeah,
seems like they hit tie-dye a little faster than they used to for some reason. It could be just me. I don't know.
It's entirely possible. We're certainly all hoping they'll cut the bounty system out and make it a little bit better, but it doesn't seem to be happening yet. So,
yeah.
Do we know the exact load that's putting on the system? I know it's another calculation, lots of calculations, but has there any been testing with it off to see if it actually helps as much as everybody thinks it will?
No, I don't think so. Not yet. I assume there will be lots, but when it comes out, my expectation is it'll help at least a little bit for most people.
So
I know certainly my computer, which is I like to think at least a decent one, definitely starts struggling in these battles when you start getting 3, 4, 5 clients.
Yeah. Well, that's the super potato mode, quote unquote. That wouldn't have anything to do with the bounty system turning off, would it? That'd be separate, right? Because that would be server side, the bounty system, the everything on the client side really shouldn't affect tie-dye itself. It just helps your computer better handle the tie-dye or the calculations on your side, right?
Correct. I think.
yeah. Question from the chat from Eve Drusus Nero says, has CCP said they will cut bounty system from these big fights?
No, they haven't said they will do that. It's been something
Okay.
players have been, what would you say, clamoring for a while. We all want it to happen so that, everybody that gets involved in these big fights, we all see, the bounty calls, just piling up in our call log there, and we're all like, can we just get rid of these? So, even though bounty calls are like the lowest priority call, there's still calls building up there that take forever to resolve, right? So even when the system should be able to start catching up, then all of a sudden it's starting to just process through bounty calls, right? So it's really unfortunate for most people, I think, that those bounty calls are still there and they're so.
So what would you think about getting rid of the bounty system altogether? Like,
I'm major in favor of that. I don't think the bounty system provides a single thing to this game. And
yeah, I'm in agreement with that.
Worst case scenario, just make it calculated downtime once a day. I don't think it'll change anybody's view of it.
Oh, that's not a bad idea. Take all that load off until some low population time. All right, here's a question from Anu. Can we get a clarification on the Titan drop? It was only 20 dreads we dropped on it. I think he's from Imperium.
Yeah, he's in the initiative.
Not 30 plus.
So are we talking about the nag drop or are we talking about the avatar drop?
We'll give him a second to respond to that.
Because the Naglfar, I'm told for the Naglfar, or not the Nag, the Ragnarok drop,
the avatar
30 dreads were dropped. Actually, I had Mike Flood in here a little bit earlier telling me there was 30 dreads.
From the Imperium FC.
Yeah.
All right, so that's where that number comes from. All right, 20 or 30, but dreads were dropped on the avatar. It was
for the avatar. I wasn't there to confirm the number, but I was told it was 50 dreads on the avatar.
Oh, 50 dreads on the avatar. Okay. Well, I think that Anu there says it was 20 dreads were dropped on it. It was 20. All right, we'll stick with that number, 20. I imagine you were there. So it's kind of
has the carrier changes affected the super carrier changes affected
well,
anything?
There's 41 initiative dreads that all fit the profile of being involved in that. So
oh, okay. All right.
Maybe we'll call it in the middle, right. I guess.
Yeah, between 20 and 40. Well, 20 and 50 dreads. How's that?
Well, there's 41 on the Killboard, if I'm counting this correctly. So.
All right. So they have to. I mean, in order to touch that thing, they have to have been on grid. So there has to at least been 41 dreads. Okay. All right, Vily. Is there something that? Okay, we invited some FCs from the Imperium to show up today in case they wanted to talk about this, but they're busy preparing for tomorrow. So they're not able to join us, unfortunately. But is there anything they did that surprised you or you thought was a good move today? Vily, that's for you.
Not particularly. I mean, they played it okay. They did lots of things fine, but nothing was particularly innovative or heavy duty. Once you get into large tie-dye battles like this, the opportunity for innovation and advanced fleet tactics just really isn't there for the most part. Like you're so, how do I put this? The battle is just so slow that, you know, most of the tactics are predictable and predicted pretty short order, and it just creates the situation where not a whole lot of exciting things happen. You know, you're playing from a pretty reasonable playbook.
Yeah, but this is outside their time zone, right?
When it
Yes.
started, it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And
It's outside our time zone too, right? It's outside
right.
everybody's time zone.
Of course, this is really early as far as you got lots of time before downtime. So if something goes sideways, it's going sideways hard.
Yeah, the Imperium has has people in that time zone as well, right? Don't they have Ranger Regiment and Dracarys and stuff? So
Sorta. Range Regiment in Dracarys would be as big as AOM. Like Fraternity is a monster compared to Range Regiment in Dracarys. Like 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, like in size difference. So I don't think it's a reasonable thing to say that like those groups are comparable to Fraternity.
It helps, but
yeah, absolutely it helps. Like, don't get me wrong, they're good to have.
Right. All right then, Vily, you have anything else that you want to say while you're here? And chat, you have any questions before we go?
I've got no particular points. I'm
just
happy to talk.
Just here to answer questions. How good did you feel when that second Keepstar went down?
I read about it on Reddit. I had to run back to work for something halfway through the fight. So
it wasn't quite a legacy of a Keepstar.
No, it wasn't. But suffice it to say, you know, we had been talking about it for the better part of 3 hours about dropping the second one. So it was not like it was a surprise. As soon as the Keepstar was, I think, at 30% structure, we were like getting ready to prep the next one. So
yeah, there was rumors that there was a second Keepstar that was going to go down, but we didn't know when or where or anything. And
well, the Imperium literally broadcasted about it, so it wasn't exactly a secret.
Yeah.
The entire universe knows about it at that point.
Definitely looking for freighters.
Does that mean you have a mole? Is there a spy in there?
I'm sure we've got more than one.
At that level, though, was it discussed with everybody, or was it at the?
We certainly talked about it in more than a few channels that would not all be considered secure.
So, but nobody burned a spy to get that information out there in the public.
No, and we were, as I say, there was no shortage of places they could have heard about it. So,
Goonswarm's kind of famous for their spies, right? Their spy network. So
they used to be. It's just one of those things where it's like, the way I read it actually was more so that they were trying to like convince us not to drop it. So they were like, because they broadcasted to their entire alliance about it, right? So they're obviously broadcasting to us as well as their own guys. And when they're like, possible another Keepstar coming in, get ready for it, guys. To me, that doesn't read it like, if you actually wanted to stop the Keepstar, you probably keep that to a smaller group so that they have a decent chance of setting up some kind of ambush, versus like broadcasting the whole alliance where it's like, hey, PAPI, we know about your Keepstar. Don't drop it. We're gonna get it. You know, that's kind of how I read that broadcast more than anything.
So they had a tell. You could.
Yeah, it's a bluff. Probably the best way to say that. Like to me, that's a bluff in a broadcast.
Yeah.
Called their bluff.
All right.
I think that's a reasonable thing to say. Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I think it was a pretty solid victory. I thought Imperium did well yesterday, and they did. They're showing up in a big, big way. They just are up against huge numbers. Let's look at that real quick. Imperium numbers versus, let's see. Yeah, they had 1,850 on their side. That is incredible. But you guys came up with almost 3,000, 2,800.
Yeah,
well, yeah.
We're super hyped to see what kind of numbers we're going to pull tomorrow. We're definitely open to break the 5-6K mark on the PAPI side.
Yeah, normally, just so people have this in their head, a 5,000 person fight is huge, but that's with both sides combined. So to see that kind of number show up for one side is stunning. And
yeah, anybody else would have been over if this was going after any other coalition in the game. The war would have been over by now.
But if this was against any other coalition in the game, we wouldn't have had to put together a coalition of this size to do it too.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Right.
You
And that
know.
just, Imperium was just that strong that's what it takes.
You don't think it would? What would it take to go after PandaFam? Like if you had gone after PandaFam?
Well, I mean,
The reverse.
Imperium already did that, right? They
If the Imperium was 8 months to a year ago willing to go against PanFam with me, we'd be having the same conversation in reverse.
Except that I don't know if they'd be able to hold this long.
I don't know. It's debatable, right? I think people haven't really seen the depths of Horde's strength yet. I've been incredibly surprised and amazed by both PL and NC's ability to pull super caps out of like the air to a level I think most people don't even realize. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if they had 300-400 Titans on their own tomorrow. Like, the numbers NC can put up sometimes is just insane.
Yeah, Horde's gotten,
especially for the super cap levels.
Yeah, for sure.
Fraternity as well. You're talking. Like back when we were fighting them in Detroit, they could put 250 Titans in a fleet, and that's not to talk about the ability for them as a group to set time zone advantage and utilize it. So I think it would have been just as rough going either way, right? So hard to say.
Who knows?
Well, let's have a look at that if we can. Oh, I can't get that. All right, it's just a ping from Vince saying, "Get hyped! We're going in tomorrow. Max everything. If you've done nothing this war, show up to this fight." So they're going all in tomorrow. NC is. I'm sure PL's doing the same. I don't know what.
It's got an op level Hydra. Legacy's calling the banners. AOM's coming. Sib Squad's coming. XX I assume is coming. Like everybody's coming.
At least on your side, everybody's coming. We'll see if Imperium can actually be stopped if they show up with everybody.
Initiative's got an alpha posted, so that's their non-CTA highest level. So that's high, but not crazy high. And Asher just pinged for. Let me read it here, just so I don't get accused of miscoding Asher. They pushed all their chips in and dropped the last of their reserves. I need every Imperium soul ready at 1630 for us to stop all their momentum. So to me, that definitely reads like fighting words, and hopefully we'll get a big brawl out of it tomorrow.
All right. Well,
let's hope.
Good luck seeing that. We're going to cover it live tomorrow if we can get you a picture in that system. It's over at Keepstar. This is for a really good position for PAPI Alliance, a PAPI Coalition. Having some jump range into Delve. This is the first structure in Delve that's successfully anchoring. That's tomorrow around 1700 UTC. Well,
yeah. So if you see me in system, please don't smash my camera. Okay, guys.
Sure, Mannix. All right, Vily. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. All the information you give us is great. Gregorian, thanks for finding out some facts. That's all we have time for today. We will see you tomorrow after this big engagement. We'll check with us again at the same time, and we'll go over the battle if there was one. Take care, guys.